Well, we will get to all kinds of things, and I'm getting more points by the minute, but thank you very much for that. Let me come to Petr Macinka, from the Czech Republic, Deputy Prime Minister. Your response to this question.
So, does the West still exist?
Yes.
Was the question. So, yeah, I think the West is probably no longer the unified civilization, but it's rather a place with a contested territory of values. So on one hand, we see the concept of West as a civilization of freedom. On the other hand, we see the West as a project of some progressivist globalization. So I see the West divided. On one hand, it's the freedom or equality. It's between the conservative points of view and progressivism. And I think these two conceptions are against each other. And I think people should probably learn to listen to each other, because the gap is wider and wider, and this is
the gap between what?
Yeah, the gap between those two concepts. One is traditional or conservative. The second is more progressive, and one is about some sovereignty, national sovereignty. The second is about supranationality. I see the divided West between conservatism, progressivism, which rejects the traditions and brings us to some artificial concept of social engineering. I'm the conservative politician, so I see some dangers of the progressivist way of thinking.
May I interject?
Yes, you may, because already we're getting useful disagreement on exactly...
It's not true that globalization was a progressivist idea. It was a business idea. It was tinged with racism. We'll do all the clean jobs and we'll export all the dirty jobs to China and elsewhere. And it was an idea about maximizing profits.
Radek, one could challenge that and say, look, it was also one that brought in prosperity for much of the much of the world. I don't think we would be having this debate under that kind of regime, for sure. We will come back, I suspect, to the conservatism and liberalism clash within the West, but thank you for that. Peter, do you agree that the Trump administration's actions on Ukraine have produced a rift in the West?
Well, first, I think you really don't like him.
That is absolutely true. But I really, not only do I not like him, I don't like him because of what he's doing to the United States and the world. And I think you should take a hard look at it if you think that there is something good that will come out of it.
Peter,
what I think Trump is doing in America, I think it is reaction for something for some policies that really went too far from the regular people, too far from reality. So we saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights?
No, let Peter go on.
I think there are two genders. So, but some of us think that there is more than one, or more than two gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct. So this is something that went too far.
But does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedom and their two genders, if that's what you're worried about?
Can I please finish my points? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry for that.
It makes me nervous. It makes me
but seriously, can we let Peter finish, please? Can we let Peter finish, please?
I have to say one more thing. You said that Ukraine fights for our future and for our freedom. I think first Ukraine fights for Ukraine's future, Ukraine's freedom, and Ukraine's sovereignty and independence. So we should help them, of course, but what I see in some people in the West, they are trying to help the Ukraine. But that's another question. I don't know if Trump's administration is helping the Ukraine to stop the war. I believe that there is such an approach. I don't see any other strong geopolitical player who would be able to force Russia to stop killing the Ukrainian people and stop destroying their country. I don't see. Maybe China, but China makes nothing. I don't know if the pressure, if Trump is forcing Russia in the way that they will stop the war. I don't know. I only see that the only Americans right at the moment can make it. I see the dialogue.
Do you think Europe could put more pressure on Russia, for example, by putting pressure on Turkey, by targeting the refineries of oil more, and so on?
I think Europe also makes some pressure. We release sanctions. We do what we can. But I think the Russians, they probably don't care. When I visited Ukraine, I saw the goodwill of all people in Ukraine. They were really united and willing to stop the war. But
they keep fighting. There seem to be.
They also made some steps that probably a year ago no one from them would allow to say or even suggest. Now they are ready to make some steps back. Now it's ball on the Russian side, but I don't see any goodwill on their side. So
indeed, we probably are agreed on that point. Peter, will you forgive me? I want to come on to Ivan, who's been writing and looking at this for a long time.
It is very.
I want to come to Peter and Ivan quickly, and then we're going to leave. The MSC has produced a clock. I thought at the beginning the rules-based order had broken down enough. We're going to do without a clock, but we have a clock, and we have time for questions. Peter and Ivan, quickly on these points.
These points, well, first I think we should try to learn to listen to each other and not to label the ideological opponent as the public enemy. We are here on the West, and let's respect ourselves in the differences we have. So I don't really like such a labeling as fascist. I think it's
there are fascists in the world.
Well, maybe there are, but
including in Europe.
I think there are. It ended some 70 or 80 years ago.
No, it hasn't.
Hopefully, this is something I don't really like. That every day, every time I hear labeling someone as fascist or Nazist or whatever, I think we should calm down, because this is dividing the society. We are maybe you are smart people. I'm not as smart as you, but so we should try to learn to talk to each other again, because this is something that went too far. I don't want to talk about the Ukraine, because it's the whole day talks, important talks. I listened to President Zelensky, what he's saying, and he's got the horrible position. I'm not sure if Ukraine is able to use the military to beat Russia. That would be perfect. That would be perfect. But I think we should be realistic. So the first should be the ceasefire. I don't know how to make it. I think that I don't want to repeat myself. That.
No, all right. Thank you for the points you made.
And the United States had a wonderful situation in which the government and the opposition, either way, was competing who would be more pro-American. Once you start choosing sides, a different dynamic will start.
It does.
But
almost out of time. We're all facing the same clock.
Civilization.
No, Radek, I'm so sorry, because you will be eloquent on this.
I have an important point on the Western civilization.
No, well, we do, because they will cut the live feed. All right, you have 1 minute on civilization, but we do actually have to let people go, and I want Peter and Ivan to have a word.
We're running out of the time.
Censorship.
Censorship. No, rules-based order, to which we have all subscribed. Peter.
I see that the fundamental divide of the West is not between the West and the rest of the world, but within the West itself. As I'm listening to this, I think there was some question about, or where was it, about the national sovereignty. Do I remember that well? But so
there was,
yes. So I think that the national sovereignty and the sovereign nation state is the only platform that can guarantee the democracy, because this is the only possible way how to have the cultural continuity and how to bring the power into some limited intentions. If we are not sovereign country, if we are lost in some multilateral organizations, then there is a risk.
The EU is a democracy.
Well, EU is consisted by democratic national
and a democratically elected parliament.
Democratic elected parliament without any legislative initiative. So this is the only parliament in the world that don't have the initiative to bring the law, to bring the legislation.
Yeah, because the legislation is brought forward by the Council and the Commission.
Yes, but tell me, what is the connection between the voter and the Commission? Do I have? Is there any voter from the Czech Republic who has some influence on who will be the Polish commissioner? I think there is no connection.
Commissioners are appointed by democratically elected the governments.
But these commissioners are.
That's why they love QMB.
They probably don't veto to each other, so they have. Everyone has some portfolio, and
like any other government.
Yeah, it is like a government, but even the national government is based on elections and some majority.
As is the Commission.
I don't think it is in the same.
In your country, ministers are not directly elected; they are selected by Parliament or by the Prime Minister.
In my country, there is a majority in Parliament that gives.
Right, and a majority in the European Parliament too.
Well,
which appoints the Commission, as you know.
But my position is closer to the voter than the position of Euro Commissioner.
Of course, it's a continental system.
It is, and I don't say it is an undemocratic system.
Good.
I don't say that. I don't say that. I just say that the democracy. That's the reason why we have to have the national sovereign states. That's it.